Thousands of Palestinians have been attending funerals in Gaza after 16 people were shot dead by Israeli troops on Friday and hundreds more were injured. Here you can see pictures of funeral services from the past few hours. The outbreaks of violence followed the gathering of tens of thousands of protesters along the border fence between Gaza and Israel at the start of a planned 6-week-long demonstration against Israeli occupation. The Israeli military currently oversees a no-go zone along the Gaza border, citing security concerns. Palestinians have pitched 5 camps near the border. You can see them here in yellow. Hamas, which controls Gaza along with other Palestinian groups, is calling for families to stay in these camps until the middle of May. The BBC's Yolande Knell reports from Jerusalem.
Israeli drones dropped tear gas as huge Palestinian crowds massed on the Israel-Gaza border after Friday's prayers. Organisers had called for a peaceful march, but Israel's military says demonstrators threw stones and tried to breach the perimeter fence entering Israeli territory. That's when its soldiers opened fire. And the result was deadly. Last night, emergency talks took place at the UN Security Council.
Israel must uphold its responsibilities under international human rights and humanitarian law. Lethal force should only be used as a last resort.
Palestinians here are demanding the right to return to land they lost 70 years ago when the State of Israel was created. Israel says Gaza's Hamas leaders just want to stir up unrest on the border.
It stopped thousands of people from infiltrating into Israel. This was an organized effort by Hamas, an internationally recognized terrorist organization that calls for the destruction of Israel and that preaches genocide against Jews, to infiltrate into Israel in an attempt to destroy Israel. It is totally inaccurate to call this a protest.
Now, though, Palestinians plan to stay in these camps near the Israel border for the next 6 weeks. And the fear is that with further protests, there'll be further unrest. Yolande Knell, BBC News, Jerusalem.
Well, joining us now from Gaza is Ahmed Youssef, who's a senior figure in Hamas, former political advisor to Hamas leader Ismail Haniyeh. Thank you for joining us on BBC World News. What were you hoping to achieve with the protests?
Yeah, actually, what we would like to achieve, this is a new approach, non-violent approach, that the people, they think that this has been a successful approach by the Indian Gandhi and by Nelson Mandela in the 30s and the 20s. And this time we would like, as Palestinian, when we see the Israeli atrocities and the Israeli military might using against us, and we don't capable to defend ourselves, we would like our people, this is the idea that been created by the youth, actually, those people who form a committee and start talking to the people, mobilizing them to go to the border and showing this kind of protest, that it's the right of return. It's like a march that the people would like to remind the whole world that there is a refugee, Palestinian refugees suffering in Gaza and Gaza under siege, and we would like our message, our voices to be heard by the world community. That's the message that we would like that the world community will hear. As Palestinian, we still suffering, we still living in refugee camps. Our youth, they lost hope in solving the problem, and unfortunately with this Trump administration, we didn't see any glimmer of hope, that there's going to be a peaceful settlement to the conflict.
So when you talk about a new non-violent approach, how does that square with the throwing of rocks and firebombs and the Israelis telling us of examples of IEDs being placed on the fence, what the Israelis describe as dozens of terror acts?
I don't think the Israeli, from the report I have heard that the Israeli general talking, I don't think this is, I was witnessing, I was in the border, I was seeing this young boys, they try, some of them may be throw stone, but nobody from the Israeli side has been injured or caused any trouble to the Israeli. There were snipers, the Israeli soldier firing tear gas, and that's the people respond to that.
But you were saying yourself that you are trying to appeal to the, you're trying to appeal to the outside world to show that this is a non-violent approach by Palestinians. And if you do have examples, we've all seen the throwing of rocks. There have been some fire bombs thrown. This is surely counterproductive from your point of view.
Yeah, but this is, again, this is like a play, it's like fire games, and something like this is not lethal. Something just to show that, draw the attention of the media and the people that this is the border, and this is where we are. They would like to send the message. It's just signals to the world community that they are just, the majority of those people is just young boys. They are not people fighting or firing bullets or anything like that. The only one who using bullets, live ammunition and tear gas was the Israeli side, not the Palestinian side. What we are seeing, just boys try to run and be close to the fence, and that's it. But the majority of the people, there were like a buffer zone. The majority of the people being far away, at least 500 to 700 meters away from the fence. Just small kids.
We saw families there. We saw boys. We did see children out there among the thousands who are out there. Hamas has said, according to the AFP agency, that 5 of its members, Hamas members, were among those killed, that they were participating in the popular events. So Hamas members were up there and were up front.
I don't think so. This is not the real story. Those people being among as civilian and using non-violent approach. If those people having the gun to defend themselves, they might kill some Israeli. But none of the Israeli being killed or injured. And those people among the people, this is the Palestinian. It's a big demonstration, thousands of people being there. And those people are belong to all the Palestinian faction. And there is no title for anybody who participate there. Everybody showing as a Palestinian. As a Palestinian, I came to show, using non-violent approach to show to the world, to draw the attention of the world. There is a Palestinian who's still suffering from the occupation.
If we're looking at the protection of families and the protection of children now, given what's happened, you've faced the tear gas, there's been violence, there've been wounding, there've been deaths. Isn't it time to pull families back from the camps for their own protection?
The people try to be very cautious, and they are there in their tent far away. There are a buffer zone more than 500 to 700 meters away from the fence. But the Israeli sniper, why they are doing the shooting on the people and agitate everybody to respond to that? When you're talking about more than 1,000 people being injured by those snipers, this is a question that where is the morality? This is a crime against humanity committed by the Israeli soldiers on the border who been shooting on the peaceful demonstration around the border.
Ahmed Youssef, thank you so much for joining us on BBC World News.